AI is helping me automate basic tasks in my work life. I'm on PTO, it's still gonna run that whole thing. Anything possible with code. I'm not a programmer. So I was just typed a prompt into ChatGPT, wrote it in Python, and I'd manually ran it for probably a year. Every morning I'd click a button just to execute it. First try, no errors, it just worked. I was blown away.
All right, David, super stoked to have you. I'm really excited to learn about some of the AI stuff that you're working on where you are. Really quickly, will you give the people a brief background, who you are, where you work, what your role is?
Yeah, for sure. So David Kaler, work at Alchemy Technology. We do banking services, digital banking services for credit unions, banks, across a variety of use cases, from the app you log into to digital account opening to loan origination, all sorts of stuff. My specific role is really around implementations of those platforms and services, essentially plugging our wires into the bank's wires, making sure all of that works. Lots of fun.
Yeah, you were saying that most, credit unions or regional banks probably haven't built their own platform. They're using you or one of four of your competitors. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wondered, what's it been like over the last, let's say 3 years, 2 years? 2 years ago is when OpenAI had their moment. It was like, oh, wow, ChatGPT, I can ask it questions. Oh my gosh. And over that period of time, the companies have sort of shifted. All of a sudden you're seeing roles like, oh, he leads our AI implementation team and et cetera. What's it been like working at a tech company that's servicing these fairly old legacy businesses? Is there a lot of talk around AI? Is it still nascent? How do you view it?
I would say there's a lot of talk.
But not a lot of doing.
Yeah. I would say the doing is a little, not a fast follower, it's a slow follower.
Mhm.
We're getting there. Honestly, I think we're doing okay internally. But I would say the industry as a whole, there's a lot of excitement, and we have a data product that does use some AI modeling that we send out to our clients and stuff. And that's really well done. But I would say as a whole in the industry, I would say there's more excitement than actual productivity.
Do you think that's because of the regulatory environment within banking? Or
Yeah. There's a lot of fear and apprehension. I would say in the banking sector, if you don't know if you're allowed to do something, people just assume you're not allowed to do it, which I would say is very different than most of the business world. If it's not in the business world, if it's not explicitly denied, then you assume you can go forward. And I would say in the banking regulatory environment, it's quite the opposite.
healthcare is very similar, right? It's like,
Yeah.
hey, we don't move fast and break things in healthcare. We take our time. It was the same with banking, right? So tell me how you are currently using AI, both personally and within the organization.
Sure. So I've tinkered with a bunch of different things. I like trying the different models for different things. I would say my best personal use case has been Replit, the AI engine agent model where it actually does all the hosting for you, which is brilliant. I'm somewhat technical in my background, but I'm by no means a developer or a server engineer to spin all that stuff up. So it actually spins up the servers, the databases, it hosts it all, serverless native in the background, whatever. Basically, you don't have to know any of that or think about it. And so I built a little mini game on Replit that is essentially it's a click-based monster destroyer. I can bring that up if we want to look at that. It's kind of fun. It's a time waster.
Yeah, I'd love
It
to see
goes
it.
on for forever.
This is more of a entertainment, personal use, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
While you're pulling that up, I like to ask people this question. What models are you using and what are you using them for currently?
Good question. I really like Gemini, the Google one, which I
Yep.
know gets a lot of hate, but it's good at one specific thing, and that's knowing its own ecosystem. So I write
Mm.
some Google App Script, and who does Google App Script better than Google? And so Gemini is pretty good at that. I had a crappy little Python script that I was running manually every day in the morning on my laptop that would connect to some Jira APIs and send an email. And I popped it into Gemini and I said, hey, I want you to take this Python script and output me a Google App script that can then be scheduled and automated. And it did it. First try, no errors. it just worked.
That's awesome.
I was blown away.
It's funny. I haven't heard people talk about Gemini, but that makes sense from that like specific use case, right? That it knows its ecosystem really well.
Right. Outside of that, I don't use Gemini.
Okay. So what are the other ones you use and for what?
I think Grok is really good at basic scripting. Python or AppScript sometime I'll pop over there. I use ChatGPT a lot for like general stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's kind of slow. The output, it takes a long time to think and then like write a response.
Especially after using Grok. Man, Grok is so fast. It's at least comparative to ChatGPT. Okay. So ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, do you use anything else on a regular basis?
No, I guess whatever's built into Replit, which I think is Claude
Yeah.
3.7 at the moment.
Yeah, that's interesting because a lot of people use ChatGPT as like a thought partner, as just general, hey, how does this work? And then they'll go to other things for specific use cases. Claude, the Anthropic model, Sonnet 3.7, I've heard a lot of people using for coding, which, I mean, you're using it for Replit, so you're effectively using it for coding. Grok, I've heard for real-time data and for some, not analysis, but the deep research function, supposedly, is really good. I haven't used it for deep research. I use ChatGPT for deep research. So anyways, it's just interesting to hear the specific use cases that people use for each one of those.
I'll bounce around too. Most of my like deep AI work is scripting. And so when I run into an error, you like tell it the error and it just repeats the same answer over and over. And it's like, okay, you're not getting the error. Then I'll switch models, paste the same code in, same error, and it'll approach it from a different angle and then usually get past the bug or the error or whatever.
Okay, so and it sounds like you're mainly using it for coding, like creating the automations, creating the workflows.
Yeah,
to help you.
Correct. I don't actually have any automations using AI where I'm like pinging out to an AI to do something. It's the AI is helping me automate basic tasks in my like work life.
Well, next month, it'll be a year since I started this podcast. I've had over 100 interviews. It's been a ton of fun, but I promised my wife at some point I would decide whether or not this was going to be a business or we would just continue to pay for it out of our pocket. And I'm exploring monetization, to be honest with you. There's not a ton of costs, but I do want to figure out a way to cover the editing and the packaging and the promotion costs of putting this podcast together. So I am looking for sponsors. I don't know what that looks like. If you've enjoyed this podcast and you've ever found some value and you want to sponsor, reach out to me, nick@cofounders.com, and let's get back into it. Cool. All right. Well, let me see the game. I want to see the game you created.
Yeah. So this was, I mean, it's not fancy, but it only took like 20 minutes. So I don't know if you ever played the paperclip game back in the day, but you could like build a paperclip factory and then it like took over the world. So you would essentially click. It's a clicker game. And I'll start iterating through this. And you can see as I click, the monster health goes down and then it dies. And then we have a new monster. And you'll notice I have gold and a score and it starts to go up. And so this is the same premise as the paperclip game that was popular. Oh man, what was that? Like early 2010s probably, and built with a UI of like the 1990s. Yeah. But man, I spent days. I had it running on a server in my last job, so it could let the paperclip factory run overnight. So I could like accumulate all these resources and take over the universe with paperclips. So anyways, that was the inspiration here. And I was like, I wonder how hard it would be to recreate like a spinoff of that. And so I added a little storyline. It's not great, but I didn't write it. AI wrote it. I'm like, hey, give me like 1,000-part storyline broken into sentences in this like JSON format. And it did. So we have a storyline.
That's awesome.
So I have gold. I can upgrade my click. So it like kills the monster faster now. It's stronger. I can do passive income. So now if I don't do anything, I just get 2 gold per second just by sitting here. I'll upgrade the passive again.
So what did you create this on?
Replit. This is built and hosted by Replit, and it took me like 30 minutes to put together.
Can you pull up the Replit project that created this? Was it all natural language that you used to create this, or were you actually coding?
No, I'm not a programmer by trade at all.
So you went to Replit and you said, hey, Replit, I want you to make this game that does XYZ things. And then you just iterated essentially to this.
Correct. Yeah. Let me see if I can get into my Replit account. I think that's the wrong Gmail.
Yeah, no worries. No worries if you can't. I was just curious if you had like the ability to
Yeah.
show, hey, this is what a first prompt and et cetera. Okay.
It's on a different laptop. Sorry.
No worries. No worries. Okay, so this is the game function, which is awesome. And I'm sure you use this just for entertainment.
Yeah.
What are some of the other functions that you're using AI for at the moment?
So the actual useful use case is basic scripting. So there's a lot of things in life that we forget about, just tasks that need to be done, accountability items. One example I can talk you through is like time tracking for my team. It's always a big thing for various reasons, but everyone hates time tracking. No one's very good at remembering doing it real time. And so I had built a little Python script that would do it. Talked about that earlier. What it does now, it's this Google App Script that I had Gemini rewrite from the Python into Google App Script. And it essentially makes an API call out to Jira, and it says, hey, what tickets did so-and-so comment on today or yesterday, actually? And then it gets that list. And then it says, hey, what Jira tickets did they log time to? And then it does a diff against those two lists. So we commented on ABC, but we only logged time to A and B. And so the remainder is C, was a ticket that had work done, but no time logged to it. And so then it sends an email to that person and says, hey, you did work on this ticket, but you forgot to like track your time to it.
Do you have a flow I can look at for this or no?
I don't have a flow.
What I'm trying to understand, Jira is a project management software.
Yeah, essentially.
That's essentially, and it sounds like that's where your team is logging their time just because they're associating their time with tickets within Jira.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're saying is it will go in and take one time point, subtract it from another, and be able to match what they self-reported versus what they actually recorded in the system.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Or it'll look at where they like logged a comment. So they like responded to a client or just dropped an internal note. So they took some action on this particular project, but didn't associate any time to that project. And so it finds that discrepancy and then emails them about it.
All right. And what is actually doing it? Is it a prompt?
Good question.
That you like, how is it get initiated?
That's not the AI. The AI helped me write the Google App Script that actually does the work. So it's a Google App Script that runs on a scheduler every morning. And so it's just executing like App Script code, calls the API, gets the list, gets the other list, does the logic, sends the email. And so that's the function I wanted to work. I knew it was possible. Like if you can logically think through it, anything is essentially possible with code. I didn't know how to write it. I'm not really a programmer. And so I was just like typed a prompt into originally ChatGPT, wrote it in Python, and I'd like manually ran it for probably a year. Every morning I'd click a button just to execute it. And I got tired of clicking the button. And so I popped it into Gemini and I said, hey, rewrite this Python script in Google App Script because Google App Script has a scheduler. And that was the key, that I no longer have to click a button, runs on like some server that Google has. If I'm on PTO, it's still going to run, that whole thing.
When you're saying Google App Script, I don't know what that is. So is there a platform that you can write these, I guess, function? I don't know what the right word is on Google.
Yeah. So they're attached to, for folks that have the Google Cloud like Work Suite, it's built in. I think it's built into the personal Google too, probably. If you've ever used like Google Docs or Google Sheets, I usually attach mine to Google Sheet.
Okay, so I would just open a new Google Sheet and I could do this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Shut up.
It's like totally free.
Don't lie to me. Okay, hold on.
Any Google Sheet, and then you go to extensions.
Okay, Google Sheet, extensions.
And then App Script.
Oh, so this is how I would get it automatically populating into the sheet so that I can see the data.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like this one, I don't even put through a sheet. It just does all the logic in memory. But there are use cases. So I have a different use case where I just want like a daily dump of all the Jira tickets that match a certain filter. And so every day it increments to this list that's sitting in a Google Sheet, and it just adds whatever the diff was from the last time it ran to the end of the list.
All right, now's the part of the show where I feel the most uncomfortable, but my therapist says I need to face my fears. So here we are. I've started a newsletter and I want you to subscribe. And what you're going to get every single week are the aggregated conversations from that week that I have on this podcast with an overview of what their business actually looks like. I'm also going to throw in a review of 1 or 2 businesses that are listed for sale. I'll give you my opinion on whether or not the EBITDA multiple is good, or there's customer concentration, or there's red flags or green flags. And then lastly, I'm going to give you one piece of actionable advice every single week on how to buy your first business. So click the link below, subscribe to my newsletter, and let's get back into the show.
You can do all sorts of stuff. You can do logic, you can manipulate the sheet, you can build if you want to like take the data in a Google Sheet and like build a Google slide deck out of it, you can do that. Really, the sky's the limit as far as it goes between like Google integrations. But it's also not limited to just the Google ecosystem. Like I'm making an API call out to Jira from AppScript.
So AppScript isn't necessarily populating in your Google Sheet. That's just where you go to get into the AppScript.
Yeah, it just like is hosting it. I have like a dummy shell of a
That is
Google
so
Sheet
weird.
that's just like it exists. And then I have like all these scripts that have schedulers attached to them.
Oh, so it's almost like your database of app scripts.
Yep. And I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but this is simple and easy.
Oh my gosh. There's no, I guess, AI. There's no context happening when you're running these, right? It's not like, hey, look at this and make a determination whether or not XYZ happened. It's literally if-then statements being executed.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty simple stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if AppScript has like a Gemini hook where you could like ping out to Gemini and say, hey, do some logic or something on this. I'm not doing any of that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's possible.
Theoretically, I could use this to say, okay, fine, tell me how many abandoned carts. I guess I could probably have an automated Shopify message to me. I'm trying to think of what use case I might use this for. Could I use this for my sales team? Could I use this for?
You could use it for like, let's say you have a report, let's say in Salesforce that you want to run on a daily basis that calls out certain accounts that are maybe in a red status or trending red based on certain factors. And you want to email your sales reps that are attached to those accounts, but you don't want to email everyone. You only want to email the ones that are trending red based on like, 4 factors that may or may not show up in the report. Well, the script can like loop through that logic and then send the email or not send the email to like, hey, go do your job.
Dude, this was awesome. I had no idea about app scripts. I'm not like, I can't wait to start playing around with this stuff. Anything else you want to show? Anything else that you're like working on right now?
That's the main, it's like, I do a lot of the same thing over and over again. So it's like that kind of pattern, just across a variety of different use cases, but that's the bulk of it.
And that might be a good framework for thinking of how to bring AI in, is like, if there's something that you're doing repetitively over and over and over, there's probably a way for you to automate it.
Oh, definitely.
And it's not that you're automating it with AI making decisions. It's that you're figuring out how to do the coding that automates it. Yeah.
Right.
Dude,
it's like empowering you to be better at like basic task automation.
It's fantastic. All right, man. This is fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.